Greetings, bloggers, vloggers, followers, and potters. Dustin here from Dustin's Dynasty with another edition and a new revamped version of me vlog. So, excuse me for saying that. It's been a while since I've done a vlog, and it's probably been since about a month, and I need to come clean about that. So, this vlog is going to be entitled "The Perfect Storm," and I would say probably from what I've experienced through bouts of mentality struggles and things over the past 5 years. As some of you have known, for the past 3 of those years, I've been on this vlog. Um, it all came crashing down on August 29th of last month. With that being said, thankfully, I did go into crisis, but thankfully I had the support of family to get me out of it. And, I won't go into details of that, nor will I comment on that because that is my business to own. And it's not very important how the details happened. I know the warning signs. I know how to get out of the warning signs. I know what they are. I'm working on a plan. It's called a Wellness Recovery Action Plan. It's something that's been noted, researched, and proven to work for a long time. So that is the plan to get out of that realm of things and work towards a new beginning. It was the perfect storm because I had a lot going on with work and everything, and my life was just overwhelmed. I think I boggled my mind too much onto too many things, and I needed that perfect storm to happen. And unfortunately, through several destructive decisions, through one big destructive decision that I made, and believe me, family caught on early that I made that decision, but they just let me play it out until it crashed. And I realized if I wanted to get help, I had to be honest about it. Um, that honesty, lies within the people who you want it to lie in, and that is where my treatment team and my family lie into that. And they've been very, both treatment team, family, and friends as I allow, um, are very supportive and very encouraging and helping me get my life back on track in the past 2.5, close to 3 weeks. I can't say enough for that. Now, I have to be honest, I shielded family and maybe not been said that I was kind to them, but I didn't let them in my life as much as I did now. And through all of this, through the experience that I experienced, through the episode that I had, and this perfect storm that's happened, if you will, I learned that family is more than everything, and that I need to include them in my life because they want to be in my life, and they can be very supportive. I think that's the most important thing I learned from this is to include family and be honest. It's also important, and I'm not going to go into detail or express how I felt, but you can draw your own conclusion if you want. But the importance of following the medication as prescribed by the doctor, as they say. I was not doing that, and that's as far as I will go. But I've been somewhat transparent about that to a degree on here on my vlog channel more than anywhere. But I realize now that it's more imperative to other than to not do that. And I would say probably in the course of the past 5 years, 5 years and 1 month that I've been independent, I had not always been honest with my medication, nor have I been honest with my family about my struggles until it got really bad. And unfortunately, like it did in 2020, it did this time as well. But it was kind of like the perfect storm. There was a lot of things going on at work, a very high stressful situation at work. It's getting better, but I'm still getting some more time off from that because it is still chaotic. I'm still working to get myself back into routine, back into place. It takes time, and when you're on a relapse, it takes time. But it's not until things can never get better until you're honest about your struggles or what you're facing, or that what you did was wrong. And I think for many autistic people, myself included, admitting that you're wrong is like a sense of like shame or a sense of guilt that you feel guilty about. But I knew when I was in that crisis on August 29th that there was no way to get out of it. And eventually my mom had to say I had to be honest. And as frustrating as it was, and as frustrating as it was to lie, to not be honest with my mother for all this time about it for 5 years, and more so that the past summer, not have been honest with many people about it. And again, draw your own conclusions. I'm not going to comment. I'm not going to say why, but I think, you then when you do, you have people, you realize how much people care about you. Whether that's, and sometimes people take what they care about in their own very way. It may not be seen as the way that you think. It's the over compassionate, over caring part away. But in those trying times, I can say, as was in crisis in 2020 and as is in crisis this time around, um, I have to say that, there were some people watching over me that day, and to make sure that I got home safe and sound, and that I was able to get what I needed, to get back on track until I could see medical staff the next day. And I did, and it was frustrating, telling the truth, but it needed to come out. And I think having that come out, and people giving me the second chance, and I know now that I have to be honest. And I learned, that's the main thing I've learned. There's so many words I learned during these 2 weeks, but the big word that I learned was honesty. And that, nobody can help you when you're struggling, as if whether you're it doesn't matter if you're autistic, or whatever mental health struggle you're facing right now. I think the reality is, if you're not going to get help if you deflect or you deter from what you're really wanting help with, if you're not going to be honest. And I'm pretty proud to say that, as a 38-year-old autistic male who's just now accepted that he has special needs as well, that I asked my mother to go with me. I brought my mother with me to the therapist that week, and we've known the therapist for decades. And just being honest and candid about situations and struggles, and realizing that, family, who, even though we were somewhat distant, but somewhat knew that right after my birthday, which was right when this whole thing started, that things started to take a turn. And there was a great deal of concern, and I eventually did notice, and I started to reflect on it. For the longest time, there was a great deal of concern from many people, and I can see the parts that broke out of me, that was where I was not 100% myself. And until that last weekend, and then into those first 2 days of the week, that Monday and that Tuesday, where things did not go, where I was not completely 100%. But there was little things before that, from when I started this setback and did this drastic decision, to where it broke apart. I would have done things differently, and I think, being afraid to have a conversation, or just doing it, just because doing something just because you think you want to do it, is never a good sound idea, especially if you're unsure of it. And nor is lying about it. And I broke a lot of people's trust, a lot of people on my treatment team's trust about that. And now I have to rebuild that trust, and it's going to be a hard thing to do, and it's going to be hard sometimes. It's going to be challenging, and it's going to be frustrating that I have to do these little things. But it also opened up my eyes to so much more. And one of those things was, as I do talk, about medication, that it does cause some issues for me, particularly if you can see the screen. I'm a very large man. I'm 38 years old, and I weigh over 300 pounds. I know, that's not healthy, but yet I accept that I am that weight is just a number, and that I'm working on that. And one of the biggest steps that I took to work on it, um, starting on August 30th, 2023, was the fact that I forgave and stopped cold turkey for the first time in probably over 4 years. Soda. caffeinated soda. I'd given up caffeine back in April of 2019. I do believe that was around the time. And back then I didn't I was in the severe headaches and could barely move. And I remember we went to Pittsburgh, which is like the big city around here. That day I went with my sister down to the iPhone store to get our phone worked on. And if you've ever been to the iPhone store, you know how drastic and how the music is so pounding. I had to walk out, and the only thing next to it, and this was in a different neighborhood. I had no record. I've never been in this neighborhood in my life. I went to a Rite Aid and got some snacks, but I relapsed on that, and I got back. But moving forward to this element of um, the um, the relapse, this relapse, which is a whole different thing. Sorry, I just shaved, and I'll get into that later. But the relapse of, I realized that I have to do this for health reasons. I was one, and I've been very candid about my soda consumption. I had cut like I drink like 6 liters a day of cold hard Coca-Cola, and I went cold turkey. I did. I had my episode on August 29th, and on August 30th I went cold turkey. And I didn't leave the apartment. I cooked food that was only going to be able to be cooked out of a microwave. I had my parents in here helping me get my apartment. My mom specifically helping me get my apartment in order because it's the time of the year when there's inspections and things. But in reality, it wasn't bad, but it took some time because I'd already not been drinking as much. I'd been down to 2 liters that before that episode for a couple weeks, and sorry, itchy neck there. But I think, eventually, it wasn't as bad, but it did have a toll, and I was taking Tylenol for about 3 days until I could actually get functioning around the house and out of the house. By the first of September, and that was a Friday. And so, I didn't do the best that weekend, and I made some bad decisions. But thankfully, I have family, and we got back on track yet again. It wasn't as bad. It wasn't into crisis mode, but it's like the perfect storm. Like I say, I was already taking a break from everything, and then with the whole my employer moving, and it's just been a very hectic, chaotic situation there. I decided to take a month off, and I thought about, I knew I'd probably go at the end of this month, but but today I learned that I needed more time, and just things aren't ready there for my return yet. So in order to make it a very friendly and accommodating return, which, as you know, autistic people and change is a very difficult thing. It's very challenging. It's very hard, and we're very, as autistic people, I think we're very rigid on our routines. We don't like change, and when we are changed, even though this change was easy because I kind of went through a soft walk, but it'll be completely different when I see it. It's still a big change, and it's going to be something to learn from. It's not easy, but I'm doing better with it, and I'm going to be okay. And that's, I think the thing with me is, I've been through so much in my life, and it's just that I'm resilient and I always get through things. And I will admit, when once I started getting back, where I was needed to go, and getting into doing the right things, it still wasn't a cut and dry, oh, he's back sort of thing. It took time. It took probably, until earlier this week, till Monday of this week, which today is Saturday. It took till that Monday to actually feel good enough to be the person that I was, maybe somewhat the person that I was, almost 4 or 5 years ago. Um, I wouldn't say that it was easy, but it did have its struggles and it did have its challenges. But I had a lot of people praying for me. I had a lot of people on my side. Um, it's just a miracle that that I made it through the challenges, the struggle, the relapse, and I'm back on track. And if anything I learned from this whole experience is never to go back on it, and to be honest when something's wrong, and be honest when I'm struggling. I think that's going to be said for a lot of people in for struggling with mental health, and especially men who like to deflect and not be honest about things. I was one who's always promoted men's mental health, but until this happened, I never really was honest about it. And now I realize I need to be honest. I need to be on the up and up. And, that's just something. Now, through all this experience, and I think, in my, as if you are subscribed to my e-blast, and I do encourage you to do there, and you do if you want to. There is a link on my link tree for that. But in reality, but through this experience, I had already been cutting back my exposure to social media, because I knew it had been a very social media, and whatever you want to say about it, however you want to say about it, you need a healthy balance, and not to be as toxic as it can be. It's not easy, but it is social media can be a very toxic thing to do and to be around. And I had to learn that the hard way. Now, I wouldn't say go cold turkey on that. There's things you have to do, and there's things, and eventually things will get back to normal. And as I learned, we're nearing the end of week 3. Things are starting to get back to normal. I'm starting to, ease myself back into normality, even though not everything's there. But it's getting back to that normal, and I guess that's what I'm really need to be grateful and thankful for. It is something, and learning how to balance your responsibilities or your task, I think, is another thing. But all in all, I'm 100% better than where I was. And actually, just not being as what some people would call lazy or defensive. I actually take pride in the things I have. My apartment is much better. It looks much better. I keep things a lot more cleaner than what they were. There's just so much more that, has been done. And, regardless or not if you believe in medicine, that is what works for me. And now I've experienced it deep enough to know what I'm like without it, that I know I can never, I have to stay on it. And if we have to try and see how things work, how things go with all the changes, and with trying to eat healthier, which I am. I've been cooking a lot more at home and not eating out, not nowhere near as much as I once was. And just cutting out the caffeine is a big thing. But we have to see where it goes, and be patient with ourselves. Rome wasn't built in a day. The pyramids weren't built in a day. If I've learned enough from witnessing many people, friends, peers, co-workers, anything going into the hospital, is that you have to be patient with yourself. And thankfully, I didn't go into the hospital or any sort of inpatient setting. But the reality is, I know that it's not going to be overnight that it's going to happen, and I have to build myself that new routine, and I slowly am. I'm building that new routine, and trying to get that new set of ways for me to act. For so long I acted so childish, like a spoiled little brat. But now it's like it's time for me to grow up and be the man that I need to be, and be the man that I can be. I'm so capable of more than what I think of. Yet, even though I have special needs or special challenges, or I don't even like the word special, because it's just, I think it's such a belittling word. But, I do have challenges of multitude of things, and I have multiple ways of identifying myself. But those all, just because I can't do something, or don't want something in my life, it's the reality is that it's there, and that's the way how something, whether it be an identity or a diagnosis, it is there, and there's nothing, I have to accept. It's practicing radical acceptance and accepting it for what it is. It's challenging as it is, but and it may seem belittling or wrong, but it's what it is, and I know I need to help. And accepting that I need to help is the most important thing. And I think that was the most important thing I learned through all of this: accepting and being honest with help, and doing what I'm told, and following orders and instructions to the letter, especially when it comes to being well and staying well. So I know I've talked for about a half an hour, 35 minutes, but I wanted to get that out. I felt like I was due for a vlog and I had been away from this channel, and I want to thank the subscribers because, I know I have over 260 videos and this is number 262, but I thank you so much because, we're going through a change in my process too with my platforms. I'm not writing the series that I am. I'm actually calling this series The Perfect Storm. And, it's something new, and I think it works healthier for me. When we were writing back, the last 3 years when I started writing weekly, we were amidst a global pandemic. That global pandemic is waned to some degree. It's still out there, but it's not in the massivity as it once was. So we can tone our blog writing down a bit, and if it's for healthy for my mental wellness, it is good. Now I write sometimes. I don't write as massive paragraphs and full stories as I used to. You'll see that I've broken down my content so that it's more easier to read, and it's able to even be shared on social media platforms, particularly Instagram and Facebook more. That seems to be where most of my following is. And I think it's just something that I've started to learn to adapt to the new routine. It's one of many things. So again, I've rambled for another 2 minutes. I'm not gonna ramble anymore, but those were some of the points that I needed to get across to you tonight because I know it's been so long. So again, thank you to the subscribers. Keep following me, like and subscribe if you haven't already. Be sure to follow me on my platforms. That includes Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, at Dustin Dynasty. I'm on the web. I still put some blogs on the web and been working on update it. It's www.dustinsdynastyusa altogether @.com. And that's pretty much all. There's different things. I have a link tree also, and that is handle is Dustin's Dynasty. You can go through my archive stuff, look at different things. You can sign up for my e-blast and so much more. I want to thank you again for listening. Be sure to take care of yourselves, stay safe out there, and get some rest. We'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.